With Lorcana's rise of the Floodborn, all of a sudden we're having all these new mechanics flooding into Lorcana. It's great for the game. They look fun so far. But what I'd like to talk about is 5 mechanics I think should never come to Lorcana. First up, we have a mechanic that's all over Pokemon, and that's complete randomness by coin flips or dice rolls. So I don't want to see anything on cards ever go to coin flips and dice rolls. The randomness is just too weird in the game. Coin flips are super awkward because they create mechanics that can deals way more or way less damage. So if you have a mechanic that every time you flip heads, it deals 10 and you keep flipping until you land on a tails, odds are really good you're gonna only do one successful coin flip, two successful coin flips, or three successful coin flips, or you might use the ability 3 times and never do any successful damage. The other problem is that some people can be super successful and maybe hit 10 or 12 in a row. The odds aren't really there to make it happen, but I guess it makes the game exciting for the person who's flipping heads, but it makes it miserable for the person on the other side of the board. I think the mechanics should be based around what they do, and they should just always happen at the same time. The next mechanic I don't want to ever see is something like Magic's Circle of Protection, where you can protect damage against a certain color, because then that card becomes like a sideboard item where as soon as you know that your opponent's playing certain colors in their deck, you just substitute this card and it just like nullifies their entire colors on their deck. It's not fun to play against. It's super unfun. There's nothing you can do about it. I mean, all you would be doing is questing, and you can't manage to deal with their board at all, and that's not fun at all. So, Circle Protection is one that I really don't want to see in the game. I don't want to see people or cards that just can't be touched by other colors. Like if there was an Aladdin that couldn't be attacked by steel, I think that's kind of game breaking, especially when you're so limited on the colors and you can't include every color in the game at the same time. So certain metas would just like blow up certain colors. And I think part of the game is you want to be able to build a deck and play it against other people, and you don't really have to narrow down which colors your deck's good against and which one's bad against. It's either a fast deck, a medium speed deck, or a control deck, and that's all you really have to worry about. The decks mechanics, really the one that I thought about that started this whole list, and that's dual color cards. So in Magic, they have these all the time. They have 2 different colors on a card, and then so you would need to make a deck of those 2 colors, and that would just kill Arcana because you're locked into only 2 colors anyway. In other games like Pokemon or Magic, you can have as many colors as you want in your deck. It just kind of waters it down. With Lorcana, they've locked you out of 4 of the other colors. So the second you have a card that's dual color, you would have to be running those 2 colors only. And I think that would be game breaking to Lorcana. I don't think they'll ever do it, but I hope we never see cards like that coming into Lorcana. Next up, we have avatars. So this is something that I'm really worried that Lorcana might do at some point in the future. Games like Flesh and Blood have these. I know like Hearthstone and other kind of card games, they kind of have these. It substitutes you as a player for a card that you put on the board. Generally, you can only have one of these in your deck. And basically what it is you play it, and it has some kind of mechanics on the card that change the way the game is played, and it's like your substitute, so it might have a special ability. You can only have one in the deck. It might be implemented like the Magic the Gathering Commander format, where you have 99 card deck, and then you have a 1 card commander, and then your deck's built around that commander and his abilities. I really don't want to see it come to Lorcana. I don't think it would be good for the game. I mean, it's a lore based game, it's not a life total type game, so I just hope they don't do anything like that. It would really, I think, change the way the game is played a lot to have a commander or avatar that's taking place. I just really don't want to see that mechanic ever come into Lorcana. The last mechanic I don't want to see is actually something that's kind of weird, and that's called like a select or an option, where you play a card and your opponent has the ability to choose an action. So you don't actually get to choose what the card does. Your opponent actually gets to choose what it does, and that takes the power out of the player who plays the card. And actually, you already know what they're going to choose because when you play the card, they're going to take the least of the 2 bad actions, which isn't nearly as fun as having the option to play a card and choosing the action for yourself that the card does. So basically, those cards end up being watered down. They're not fun to play, and generally, it's just you can already tell which the worst action is, and it's always going to be that. So they generally are underpowered as well. So hopefully, Lorcana never puts in any kind of mechanic where your opponent gets to choose what happens with it. That's really where I think that Lorcana needs to go. We can stay away from the dual colors. We can stay away from the randomness and dice rolls and coin flips. We can stay away from colors just getting nullified. Keep out the options and no avatars. I think if we stay out of those, most other mechanics I think would fine and work well in Lorcana. But I think these ones are all toxic. If you have any others, let me know in the comments. I'm sure there's plenty others that would be terrible in Lorcana. I'll see you in the next video.